Hello, my friends. My name is Jack Descartes, and this is Sentinel Circle. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the topic at hand. And since this is kind of a really short weekend for me, I'm going to excuse me. I'm going to kind of we're going to do something a little different. We're going to kind of go back to basics. But at the same time, it's gonna be different but similar, if that makes sense. So let's put it that way. So today's topic, and I actually have two articles and two websites that I'm gonna show you. And when I first saw these articles come out, as you can see, this one from Rift, University offers Adulting 101 course because Gen Z can't change a tire without it. This came out May 28th, and I saw this push of articles happen recently. The first one that I saw was actually from the New York Post, but I'm not showing that one to you. I'm showing this one because this one's a little bit more harsher on the whole Adulting 101 than New York Times or New York Post was. So I'm going to show this one, but I'm going to also show the inverse of it, just so we can understand exactly what's going on. Then I'm actually going to show you the courses and websites in question, just so you can understand exactly what's going on here. Anyways, so it says here, University offers Adulting 101 course because Gen Z can't change a tire without it, by Dallas Ludlam. I can't pronounce that, so I'm just going to not attempt. It's hard to believe, but apparently some college kids need a university course to learn how to change a tire or not turn their whites pink in the laundry. The University of Waterloo in Canada has launched Adulting 101, an online program to teach students the kind of basic life skills your grandma probably mastered at age 10. So, like I said, the New York Post was kind of this aggressive as well. And when I watched the article, or when I read the article initially, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever. But I really thought about it. And I got to say, since starting this channel, I really, excuse me, I really realized that there's this, how do you want to say it? There's this kind of... it's kind of like this and I saw it as like as a millennial, you know, we were told, oh, we can't do anything, blah blah blah, and Gen Z's kind of getting it now. But I noticed by talking to my audience and by talking to other men specifically that we weren't really taught how to do these things by the individuals who should have taught us, which, like I said, I'm firmly am of the belief that parents have a duty to teach their children life skills, and based on what I'm seeing in my own personal experiences, that's not the case. I used to be one that would say that universities and high schools shouldn't have to teach this stuff because they're supposed to teach the things that parents can't teach. Example, things like math, biology, chemistry, that kind of stuff. And I know that a lot of people are kind of like, you know, why would I learn that stuff if it's not going to apply in real life? Well, it kind of does. The immediate thought that comes to my mind is don't mix bleach and ammonia because you wind up with a chemical weapon, you know. And the only way you would learn that is either through wisdom being passed down from, you know, an adult in your life who's learned that, or in chemistry class. Another thing would be like, you know, learning speed down the highway. That's a form of calculus, you know, distance over time. That's like a very quick and basic understanding of calculus. So that's my point, is I do firmly believe that. Now, in my high school, there was this course. I didn't take it, but it was kind of like a home ec class, and the one thing that I saw people take from that class is one of those like baby dolls that like apparently cry at like 2 o'clock at night, and you got to get up and take care of it. And there's like sensors in there, so if you like beat the child or something like that, then it flags that sensor and you fail the class. Like I said, I personally didn't take that class. I took some other classes, but I've seen people do that. And like I said, I thought to myself that that's silly for a high school to teach that. But again, as I've gotten older, as I've learned what is being taught in school versus what parents are teaching, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I'm wrong. And I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that I'm wrong, and maybe this kind of stuff should be taught in high schools, should be taught in middle schools, even taught in elementary schools, simply because it's obvious to me that the parents are not teaching. Anyways, so we're going to put a pin in that for right now. We'll save it for the end of the video, as I like to do. But it's just something that I'm noticing, okay? And I didn't, like I said, I didn't really notice it until recently. So the idea that a top-tier school has to hold Gen Z's hand through grocery shopping and budgeting is frankly kind of embarrassing. And the researchers behind it are trying to dress it up as some noble mission. Well, you see, this is what I'm talking about right here. He's making it seem like, you know, these kids are so coddled that they have, you know, he's probably one of the guys that's like, oh, I had to learn it by myself and all that. And again, not everybody learns by being thrown into the deep end. They flail around until they figure something that works, but is it the best? And I think that kind of stuff, because it goes into it later on in the article about Gen Z's certain habits that we've made fun of. And, you know, millennials kind of had those habits too, but Gen Z kind of kicked it into overdrive. But again, this sentence here is very accusatory, you know, and I really don't like it one bit. Anyway, so he goes on to say, honestly, it's enough to make you wonder what's going on with this generation. You know, we talked about this already. We believe that it's not just one generation; it's multiple generations that have screwed each other over. And just for context, University of Waterloo is actually in Canada. This is not the U.S., but there are American universities that are doing this as well. Here's the deal. Adulting 101 rolled out in 2023 at Waterloo, a big-name Ontario university known for churning out tech and engineering whizzes, is a free online course covering stuff like cooking a basic meal, managing money, doing chores, and yes, changing a tire. It's aimed at students who apparently can't handle these tasks without a syllabus. At the University of Waterloo, oh God, Alphabet says, Adulting 101's objective is to help students develop as young people, not just as learners, CBC Radio reported, quoting Christine Alphabet, that's her name now, who's spearheading this thing. Sounds nice, but come on, a whole course to teach what most people figure out by trial and error. Again, that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Is there are people that learn differently. You know, some people do need to have a class to teach them. Okay, I myself would love to have a class to teach me some basic things. Okay, but at the same time, like, I kind of agree with him. You have to learn, and this is. I'm sorry if I'm fumbling around on this article because it's just like I'm very mixed emotion on this. I agree with the author, but I extremely disagree with the author at the same time. I've always been taught that school is where you go to learn how to learn. And the problem is people don't understand that aspect. School is not meant to teach you topics. They're meant to teach you how to learn about those topics, which is different. And I didn't understand that until way late into my academic career at university. And I wish I had learned that sooner, because that would have changed my whole approach to university, high school, middle school. You know, elementary school, you're too young, you can't really understand that kind of stuff. But had I known that, and if you're a young person who's going through college right now, listen to me. Well, you have really no reason to listen, but I'm going to impart wisdom. It's up to you to take it or leave it. That going to school is for you to learn how to learn. That's all it is. Okay. Yes, they throw these topics at you, and they test you and all that stuff, and a lot of that stuff you're going to lose right out of the gate. But again, I mean, think about it. Like, there are guys out there that, you know, they would never thrive in school, but they're so well read into a topic, and that's because they've learned how to study the topic, how to take knowledge in, store it, and categorize it, you know? And I'm sure a lot of that came from school, even though they didn't really care about school, because where else are they going to learn that, you know? Anyways, we're going to continue on. Alphabet's trying to spin it as a mental health win. Many students report feeling anxious or stressed as they figure out their post-secondary school, and that access to resources like Adulting 101 helps normalize their experience, she told the Daily Mail. So this is an article about an article. Normalize what exactly? Not knowing how to shop for groceries. The course website doesn't pull punches, telling students, you probably already started to notice that things won't get done unless you do them. And again, this is, in a way, he's right. And this is the part that I'm having trouble with is, you know, there are parents out there that do everything for the child, okay? You know, they cook, they clean, they do all that stuff for the child, right? So then when I'll tell an anecdote here in a second, but let me finish this whole thing here. So when they move out, they have no idea. You know, they have no idea what it goes into. And in fact, in high school, my English teacher was one of those people, right? So this is not a recent thing. This is a thing that's been going on for quite some time. And I think she was a younger teacher, so I think she was Gen X. She may have been Gen X. Anyways, what she was telling me is that, you know, her mother did everything for her. So when she went to college, she had her first apartment, and she would put dishes in the sink. And her roommates hated her for it, right? She didn't understand that, you know, she had to clean the dishes and all that stuff. And she had to learn all that stuff on her own, which, you know, again, that's fine and dandy, but she remembers being very embarrassed by it, right? And I think that's part of the equation that's getting lost too is, embarrassment. You know, sort of shaming. Because people who shaming, I hate to say it, is a very powerful tool. You know, shame is what gets people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. It's kind of like the whole carrot versus stick thing. Some people need the carrot, some people need the stick, some people need a combination of the two. Anyways, we're going to continue on here. It's like they're talking to toddlers, not college students who should be ready to take on the world, not panic over a flat tire. All right. The experts have some theories about why this is even necessary. A 2023 Journal of Pediatrics commentary, which Alphabet cited, argued that the rise in mental health issues among young people is linked to fewer opportunities for children and teens to socialize away from adults. So, okay, I'm going to disagree here. I'm going to disagree heavily here. Children and teens. Hang on, let me reread that, because I just looked at it again, and I think that my argument here is completely wrong. The rise in mental health issues among young people is linked to fewer opportunities for children and teens to socialize away from adults. Okay, so I wouldn't call it mental health issues. I do agree that young people do not have, like, okay, so I'll take me, I'll date myself, and I know that a lot of the older people in my channel probably agree here. When we were younger, we had the ability to go to malls. We had the ability to go to, like, skate places. I'm sure older people had roller rinks. In fact, I went to a roller rink once, and that wasn't, that was late 90s. So they existed. There's a lot of places that have since barred entry to teens. And look, I understand when it comes to teenagers specifically, that's a crowd that has shown time and time again you don't want it. But we're constantly saying that teens need to get out more, but then we shut down every single place that they can go to. Like, there's some like convenience stores here in town here that have a sign that says teenagers, no more than 2 teenagers allowed at a time, unless accompanied by an adult. And what it is, it's the lack of respect, obviously. They're kids that are walking in, stealing, causing problems, And then, of course, we have the whole no backpack allowed, so you got to leave your backpack outside. There are some places that, and I've been a victim of that, and I won't go into a place that won't let me have my backpack because my work laptop's in there, but that's neither here nor there. So I will agree here, but it's not a mental health kind of situation. It's more because teens are talking through technology. That's where they're at now, and we kind of did it to them. I can't fault them for that, because again, if the mall is not allowing them, if there even is a mall anymore, if there's like last night I went to dinner with a friend, and we saw like 3 kids on a bike. I hadn't seen a kid on a bike in a long time. And when I say kid, I mean a teenager. But I haven't seen kids on a bike in a long time. I don't see kids skateboarding, like they were in the 90s when we had CKY and all that stuff. I don't see that anymore. And like I said, what I see are the barriers to entry. Like all the flower boxes have those little metal things to prevent kids from grinding. They have all these different things stopping them. So I think it's the right take, just the wrong conclusion. Okay. Translation: kids aren't learning to fend for themselves because they're coddled. Well, again, who coddled them? I'm not going to sit there and say, well, like, there's what comes to mind is, there's this episode of Cops, and yes, I watch Cops. I find it entertaining. Okay, I'm sorry. But there's this one episode of Cops where the kids are outside playing basketball, and the old lady across the street is calling the police on these kids constantly. They're outside, they're getting fresh air, they're playing basketball. And she's calling the cops on them, saying that they're too loud, they're going to get hurt, blah, blah, blah. And the cop is even like, they're not doing anything wrong. And he goes and shoots hoops with them. That's the world that our kids have lived in. That's the world I grew up in. I've had adults come out to outside and say, you're too loud. Like my dad has a neighbor that's across the street. Anytime he plays a music above a whisper, she comes out screaming at him. You know? Like, we're sitting here talking about kids. Let's talk about the Karens, for God's sakes. How they destroyed our children. All right, I'm going to continue on. I'm sorry. Like I said, there's no final thoughts here, so I'm kind of shoving my final thoughts in here. Psychologist Lisa Damore put it bluntly. Pardon me. Some post-secondary institutions are offering adulting resources to help students gain the skills and confidence to navigate the world more independently. And that's the key here. Confidence. You don't gain confidence unless you do something, and you need to do something in order to gain that confidence. A lot of people don't remember that. And I've been talking about this for quite some time. You need to have confidence in what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to wind up like this. But let's be real. Having to teach college kids to cook pasta or pay a bill feels like a step too far. I disagree. I heavily disagree because, again, where are they going to learn it? You know? Shouldn't they have picked this up somewhere between high school and their first dorm? Yes. But again, where are they getting it from? Because the parents are not teaching them anything. I'm going to adjust my light here. I apologize. It's starting to fall. The parents are not teaching them anything. But yet you're picking on the children, which again is destroying their confidence. Waterloo's not the only school doing this. Other campuses in Canada and the US have their own how to adult programs. But the fact that a place known for brainiacs need to spoon feed life skills is pretty cringeworthy. Shut up. Shut up, Dallas. Alphabet's all in saying it's not just about teaching them to do laundry. It's about helping them feel like they can handle whatever comes next. Again, this is my point. When you can do the basic stuff, you gain the confidence to do more complex things. Okay? Nice try, but when did having whatever comes next means needing a professor to show you how to scrub a pan? If this is what higher education's come to, maybe it's time to rethink what we're teaching kids before they get to college. Okay, so this is a very good point. Because, again, what we're seeing in a previous video is about 50% of men are not going to school. So if this is being taught in college, then that means 50% of men are not getting these skills. And this article, I'm going to admit, is very misleading, okay? And this is what happens when you play telephone. This is why we're talking about these articles, is I want to show you how completely off they are. Look, nobody's saying life is easy, but a university course to teach you how to buy groceries, that's the kind of thing that makes you shake your head and wonder how we got here. Waterloo's trying to help, but Adulting 101 feels more like a sad commentary on a generation than a solution. And that's the end of that article. So, like I said, Dallas is kind of a jerk. You know, I don't like him. I want to punch him in the throat. But he makes some good points. The big one that he harped on, and this is why I'm kind of approaching it as well, is he's right. Why do we need a college course for this? Well, again, I've already seen this happen. We have this issue of either absentee parentism or helicopter parentism, and they're both doing the exact same thing, which is neglecting the child. Okay? Helicopter parents are taking care of the child in a way that it's so they can focus on, you know, their academics and their extracurriculars, so that way they can go to a very good college. That's kind of the whole point, and that was kind of the whole meme of helicopter parenting, is, you know, you're basically oh God, what that episode of Simpsons just popped in my mind, where Homer is becoming a helicopter parent, and he sees what Bart and Lisa are doing in school, And the whole point of that and I think South Park did an episode of it too, but the whole point was these kids, they're not learning from their mistake because the parent is stepping in to correct the mistake. Like I think Lisa got like an A- or something. And Homer came in and said, no, she got an A, basically. I'm kind of surmising here, but the point is the adults are becoming the voice of children, and the children are not finding their voice until they're in their 20s. When I first graduated, I saw a man who had children who have never washed a piece of clothing in his life. He had no idea how to run the washing machine. And the guy was older than I was, and that was the first time I saw this like in full view. And I will admit that, I struggle with certain things. Like I'm relearning how to wash dishes because apparently I've been doing it wrong my entire life. I had no idea, but I'm learning skills. I'm learning how to do it. There are a lot of resources out there. So then the question then becomes, why aren't these kids looking at the resources? And it goes back to what I said. They need to learn how to learn. They're not learning how to learn, What I mean by learning how to learn is by actively going out there into the world and finding the resources. And again, everything's here now. Everything's on your phone now. So there is no excuse. Then the question then becomes, well, if there is no excuse, why do we have these classes? And again, I think what it boils down to is it's a two-faceted issue, which is one is people need structure. People need the structure of a classroom. They need the structure of a timesheet. They need structure. And when I say people, I mean most people. Obviously, there's exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule. So that's the first one. The second thing is the algorithm has gotten to a point where I'm not talking about like millennials, I think actively seek out sources. Anybody who's millennial and older, they're actively seeking out sources. I think Gen Z and younger, because they're so used to having stuff fed to them, they don't know how to find things. I could be wrong. I know there are some Gen Z in my audience. In fact, I think Troubled Mind is one of them. Hi, Troubled Mind. Good to see you, by the way. He said he's like 24, 25, and he seems like a pretty sharp kid. I say kid. He's a grown man. He's 25. But my point is he seems pretty sharp. And I think that, if you asked him to go find something, he'd actively find something. So I think he's probably the exception to the rule. I know that, like, for example, a relative of mine who's in her teens, she probably would not know how to do it, but I think it's because she's never had to do it before, and that's become a lost skill. Because when the algorithm's putting things in front of your mind or in front of you, and you just click on it, because again, like for example, YouTube, the whole goal of YouTube is to be on the front page. Okay, same thing with Google. The whole point of being on Google is to be on the front page. That's why you have search engine optimization. And if you don't get on the front page of either of those, you're shooting yourself in the foot by a lot of missed opportunity. I think something like 80% of people don't go beyond the first page of Google. I can't remember the exact statistic, but something like that, 80%. So that shows you that you're losing out on a lot of potential there, right? So I think that's what it boils down to, is we're losing that skill of seeking out information. Because, again, there's so much information out there, but it's curtailed, or it's curated, I should say, for us on our front pages. Anyways, so that's the first article. Now we're going to read basically the same article. We're at 30 minutes already. But this is coming from Vice, which I would argue is the polar opposite of the spectrum. So, again, Rift is probably like conservative, they're Republican, whatever. It seems like they may be Canadian, so whatever the conservative side of Canada. Like I said, they kind of seem like New York Post in a way. Anyways, whereas we know Vice is on the more liberal side, so we're gonna read the same article and see what the take is. Okay, so Vice is Gen Z is taking adulting 101 classes because no one taught them how to do life. Already, the difference between the Republican, which is you got to learn it on your own, versus the liberal side, which is they were never taught. Okay? And I don't mean to make this political. I'm doing this because of another reason. Okay? And I'll get to the reason here in a bit. But I just want to show you how different, like this one topic, how vast the cavern can be. Okay? They can edit videos in their sleep and build TikTok empires, and this is key here. But ask some Gen Z college students to roast a chicken or figure out a lease, and they're turning to adulting 101 crash courses to fill in the blanks. These workshops and toolkits, now offered at schools like the University of Waterloo and Toronto Metropolitan University, covers everything from how to fold a fitted sheet to what interest rates actually mean. Because for many young adults, basic life skills were never part of the lesson plan. So they're coming to, in a way, the same conclusion, which is, young adults are not being taught. Whereas Rift is saying that, like, adults shouldn't have to be taught. They should just learn, right? But again, to me, learning's always been a skill that you need to develop, and I think that skill has been lost. So we're going to continue on here. I don't know how to change a tire. I don't know how to sew. I don't know how to do a lot of things other than cooking, says Alden Garcia, a first-year university at TMU on CBC's The Current. I think it's so important that children are taught financial literacy. A lot of stuff involves money. I do agree here. However, that's where the math comes in. And again, when it comes to being taught versus learning, being taught, like, okay, for example, when we were taught fractions in school, and this was, like I said, years ago, it was brought up by one of the students, why does this matter? And the teacher did mention, well, when you cook, you need to learn fractions because that's, a lot of recipes expect that, and then of course, like, we talk about the issue between a quarter-pound burger versus a third-pound burger, and a lot of people thought that a quarter-pound burger was a lot more meat than a third-pound burger, even though if you know fractions, a third-pound burger is bigger than a quarter-pound burger, right? And that's why it was Arby's that did the third-pound burger, and it just didn't sell well because of that, because people are too ignorant to realize that a third-pound burger is bigger than a quarter-pound burger. Because, again, they think 3 is smaller than 4, even though that's not how fractions work. That's the point right there. And these are adults that we're talking about. Functioning adults, not children. Okay? In my math class, I remember this picture specifically. It was kind of like, a joke that they put in the math book. Remember how books used to have, like, really poorly worded jokes. They had these kids ordering a pizza, and the guy asked, well, how many pieces you want? And the kids say 6. We're not hungry enough to eat 8. It's literally the same freaking pizza. Like, what are you talking about? But that was, again, the whole point of learning the fractions, was to understand that, 8 slices, yes, is more, but they're smaller slices, right? I didn't realize that people had so much difficulty with fractions, but, what am I to know? Anyways, He's not the only one feeling prepared. We're talking about Alden Garcia. TMU student Bella Hudson said she wishes these classes were standard. There are a lot of things that are missed in education about when you actually become an adult. I do wish they had classes that taught how to manage yourself and how to manage your life. And you see, this is, again, where I'm having difficulty. And maybe I'm in the minority on this. But I, again, personally feel that schools should teach you subjects that you can't readily learn out there in the world. But maybe I'm wrong on that. And maybe there should be, financial literacy courses and home ec courses and all that stuff. I mean, I don't see the point in it, but it's not being taught at home. So maybe it has to be taught in high school. Even though, I've always seen high school as like, learning like things like typing, which we don't do typing anymore. But where else are you going to learn how to type? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where that, because the line has been so blurred with the advent of technology and the absenteeism of parents. I just don't know anymore. So we're going to continue on. And Gen Z is taking Adulting 101 because no one taught them how to do life. Again, I agree there. Someone should have taught them how to do life. And in fact, I think Homefront likes to say, you don't know what you don't know. Or I don't remember the full quote. It was Raymond's Thoughts and Minds also says it too, which, anyways, it doesn't matter. At University of Waterloo, the gap led to the launching of Adulting 101, a free online resource that helps students with budgeting, cooking, cleaning, career prep, and even how to ask for help. The fact that they don't know how to ask for help is sad. That to me is the shocking aspect here. If they don't even know how to ask for help because they're so beaten down by whatever, then we really have to ask ourselves what's going on. Director of Student Success, Pam Alphabet, says students often arrive on campus overwhelmed and unsure where to start. You see their shoulders drop when they realize there's actually someone and something here to help me solve my problems. Psychologist Jean Twenge isn't surprised. She says today's 20-somethings were raised with less independence and fewer hands-on responsibility. Okay, so you see, this is where the other article screwed up, and this is what I'm talking about. Is they made it seem like there was no friends that they could go hang out with. No, that wasn't the case. It was the independence aspect and the hands-on responsibilities. Because when you hit a teen, you should be able to, say, I want to go to the mall or whatever, right? Without getting in whatever trouble, okay? Again, it's not happening anymore. There's so many restrictions on our kids these days, and some restrictions I agree with. I'm not saying all of them are bad, but there are others that, like, they've been, like, a problem, okay? And the hands-on responsibilities, again, that goes back to the helicopter parenting, which is they're doing, like, I think it was Tiger Mom was the big one. And what's funny is the kids don't talk to Tiger Mom anymore. That's how bad she screwed up. That's neither here nor there. But my point is, though, is they're taught, focus on school, become doctor, become lawyer, whatever, that they don't do anything else. That's their whole life. Is they go to school. They may do like a sport or whatever. I think Michelle Obama was very famous in saying that the kids had to do like 2 sports a year, one that they picked out and one she picked out. And then on top of that, they do homework, and that's it. That's their whole life. Their whole lives are structured from start to finish. And then it's no wonder that they can't handle it once they got that freedom, because they go from being in a super restrictive prison, and that's what it is it's a prison, to immediate freedom. You know, there's no like halfway house situation. There's no like transitionary period. It's literally, in many cases, you hit 18, you're kicked out of the house, you know, or like, you know, you go to school and you just can't handle it, and then you drop out because it's so overwhelming because it's such a new experience. And I really do think that that's what's going on here, you know, is a lot of these adults, you know, the kids, whatever you want to call them, that are living at home, they went out, they probably had like a little taste of it, and they realized they couldn't handle it because they had to learn so much so fast, and they just it got so overwhelming for them. I completely am sympathetic. I get it. You know, I'm very sympathetic to these individuals' plight. They're less likely to learn how to do adult things as high school students, she explained. Then they go to university and still don't know. Exactly. Twenge links the trend to helicopter parenting, a disappearing home ec curriculum, and rising rates of young adults living with their parents well late into their 20s. Without early experience managing tasks on their own, she says, schools hit adulthood feeling stuck. Again, I'm kind of iffy on the whole home ec thing. I'm starting to see the arguments of why there should be a home ec class there. Because again, they're not learning it at home. Same thing with the money management thing. They're not learning it at home when they should be, you know, and then they're making stupid financial mistakes. Even worse, the lack of autonomy can fuel anxiety and depression. A 2023 Journal of Pediatrics review found that the fewer chances young people had to build real-life skills, the worse their mental health outcomes tend to be. That's interesting. That's very interesting, but I, again, do attribute that to confidence. Not having confidence really, really impacts your life in quite a lot of ways. Okay? And I hate to say that, but I really do believe that a lot of this is lack of confidence. You know, because if you don't have confidence, a lot of times you don't even want to try. When I graduated high school and moved out, I always wished they had taught some actual life skills. Stuff like budgeting, credit cards, and how not to shrink an entire load of laundry. Instead, we got trigonometry formulas and Spanish taught by a 60-something white woman named Miss Abernathy. So maybe Gen Z isn't helpless. Maybe they're just finally asking for the kind of education the rest of us always needed. Like I said, I'm very sympathetic to this. Like initially when I saw that first article by the the New York Times, I was kind of like, oh God, we're going to go through this. But then, like I said, I really had a moment of reflection. And I really hope everybody who's watching this has that moment of reflection. And I know, like, we did a video similar to this before. And some of the comments were kind of not great. But I just realized that maybe there is just some people out there that are so up their own rears that they don't realize that there are people out there who are struggling because they don't have those mental connections built yet. I don't know. I know what I know, but I can't read into anybody else's heart and mind. So anyways, what we're going to do next is we're going to go look at these courses and just kind of explore them, okay? So the first one, obviously, is University of Waterloo. And this is the adulting guide, okay? So it says here, adulting guide. University life can sometimes feel overwhelming with all the new responsibilities and expectations, but it's also really exciting. It's an opportunity to take steps towards the person you'll become after graduation and learn new life skills along the way. it's very flowery language, very cheery. But again, my immediate gut reaction is, okay, what about the kids who didn't go to school? They're going to be left out in the cold, which again, we've seen men are not going to school in the amounts that they used to, and it's mostly women. In fact, right up here, right at the very top, you got a woman, you got a woman. There's no men in the picture. You know, I guess that's kind of setting the tone there. But I digress. We're going to continue on. You've probably already started to notice that things won't get done unless you do them. From managing your finances, grocery shopping, keeping your laundry keeping your laundry white, staying organized. There's a lot of important life skills that you may have wished you learned sooner. And staying organized, I will say that's the one that I'm currently like really trying, because I can't come up with a system to save my freaking life. And it's not just coming up with a system, it's sticking to that system too. Because if you come up with a system but you don't stick to it, it's like, why even bother? You know? And that's kind of what this mess is behind me, is I'm trying to organize all these boxes, especially what's in my closet, to kind of condense things down. And I noticed that I got a lot of half full boxes. I could condense a lot of it down, but I'm trying my hardest to figure out, okay, well, if I condense it down, what's the organization? Because I could just throw it in a box and call it a day, you know. But anyway, so we're going to continue on here. They got 3 skills here. It's they got jump 2s, prioritize your mental and physical health, learn new responsibilities, and explore personal growth. Again, very flowery. Skill number 1, prioritize your mental and physical self. Taking care of yourself not only involves new responsibilities, but recognizing the importance of maintaining your mental health and well-being. Listen to what your body needs. And I will say, I don't like the whole mental health. Like, I do recognize that there's a mental health crisis and there's something going on, okay? I think what it boils down to is men and women were built different as they were old back in the day. And I'm talking pre-boomers, right? You know, because you had 10-year-olds in the mines. And I think what it boils down to is society is so comfortable right now that we've allowed ourselves to regress. I really do believe that if survival was more front, that people would be harder, right? And people would learn how to deal with things better. But again, I'm not going to sit there and judge. I mean, like I said, times have changed, better or worse. Times are constantly changing, better or worse, okay? So it says here, taking care of yourself not only involves new responsibilities, but recognizing the importance of maintaining your mental health and well-being. Listen to what your body needs. And again, we'll go through this first, but I'll pitch my 2 cents in afterward. Taking proactive steps to care for your health. Did you know that accessibility services offer academic accommodations such as a classroom and testing accommodations to students with known or suspected disabilities and disability conditions? Example, mental health disabilities, injuries, medical conditions, impacts of trauma. If you believe you may require academic accommodations, register with accessibility services. So already, what I'm seeing here is this is more just an advertisement to the school services. Every school has a students with disability services department. And even if, like, you know, we sit there and say, well, disability, you know, we're thinking like people with missing limbs and stuff like that. Well, yes, there are that. But there's other things like, you know, those with short-term memory loss, those who have other, you know, like traumatic brain injury, that kind of stuff too. You know, the scars that you don't see. And I always thought that that kind of service is good, but it's never really advertised. In fact, my friend didn't know about it until junior year when we were going to school. And he registered and he got extra time for his test, which he said really helped him out. I like I said, the one thing I will say about college is they're very accommodating. Okay, and I mean, I personally don't like colleges, but they will work with you, and even teachers on their own will work with you to help you out. You know, I've had grades changed. I've been able to retake tests. I've been able to, you know, because again, they recognize that life's hard. You know, they're not trying to actively screw you over. But again, this is what it seems like. It seems like an advertisement for certain programs at the school. So we'll continue on. Maybe there's something else here. Recognizing when you need a break. Adulthood can bring increased demands, so setting boundaries and taking care of yourself will help you be your best self. And we talked about that, having boundaries. Small changes can have big impact on building a healthier routine. Consider making time for sleep, socializing with others, moving your body, and maintaining a work-life balance. Not sure where to start? Warrior Rec offers programs, clubs, esports, and more. Again, that's an advertisement right there. They're advertising their Warrior Rec program, which, I mean, that's cool. Like I said, my university had all these programs and nobody knew about them. You had to know someone who was in order to know. You know, we you know, and it's sad. It really is, because you pay money for that stuff. You should get to use it. Maintaining healthy relationships. Checking in with yourself and those around you is a key part of adulting. Changes and transitions can be difficult, so it's important to take care of yourself and your mental health. Remember, if you or someone you know needs support, contact Campus Wellness Counseling Services. Another advertisement. So basically what I'm seeing, and we're going to go over the other two skills here in a bit, but so far, both those articles is making a lot of noise for nothing. Let me restate that. Both the articles from Read or Rate or whatever in Vice, they're making a whole lot of noise about nothing. Let's continue on. Skill 2, learn new responsibilities. You may find yourself having to take on a bunch of new responsibilities to make your day-to-day life run a lot smoother. Learning lifeline skills will help you build your independence now and prepare you for what comes next. Prioritize healthy eating. What we eat influences our physical and mental wellness and can impact success. Yes, this is true. Balanced diet is important to fuel your body. Each individual has their own needs and preferences when it comes to food. That's why we're dedicated to help you make fresh and balanced choices with our food guide friendly commitment with Health Canada. So this is from, we'll finish this and just look at this link here. UW Food Services aims to satisfy student taste by offering a wide variety of choices and being transparent with our sourcing, ingredient, and nutrition symbols. So we're going to just quickly go here real fast. Nutrition on campus. This is another advertisement. They got a registered dietitian, Nicole Penn. Okay. So again, it's another advertisement. Okay. So, which, you know, again, that's great. You know, they're advertising their programs. If you're a student, you pay money to go to school, a lot of money to go to school, you should take advantage of every single program they offer. And you're stupid if you don't. Maintain your living space. Living away from home or not, it's important to learn how to keep your space functioning at its best. Have you ever had to troubleshoot a toilet or sink issues? Living on your own or with a roommate is a lot of fun. Okay, sure, why not? But sometimes it means maintaining a household and learning how to be a good roommate. Explore the different household maintenance tips and some tips on how to have a positive relationship with your roommate. Okay, so we're going to go ahead with these two links here too. So let's see what's going on here. Oh, look at this. They got a YouTube channel. That's cool. So they got maintenance tips. It's a YouTube channel here. And yeah, that's really cool. So they got shower issues, they got water heaters. It's a whole play. I'll post this playlist for everybody to look at. Kitchen issues, windows drafts, breakers. I don't know if I want the students touching the breakers, but that's fine. Village one doors and keys. Okay, so if you lose your keys, washer, dryer, thermostat, toilet, sink, doors, maintenance issues, mailbox keys, sump pump. Well, that's interesting. Okay, all right. Okay, well that's pretty neat. And then what's this one here? Let's take a look at this one here. Roommate relationship 101, which anybody who's ever lived with a relationship knows that. Oh God, she, her. Sorry, I just saw that. Anybody who has lived with a roommate knows. And again, if don't ever roommate with your friends, just don't do it. I did it. That was a mistake, and we're no longer friends because of it. But that was for other reasons. That one guy is no longer friends with our friendship group. He's just a jerk. So this is written by Deshana. I can't pronounce it. Before starting university and moving into residence with a roommate, I was admittedly nervous. It can be a big culture shock and scary living on your own. Yeah, you're going from living in your own house, whatever, to being stuck with someone that you may not like. You know, be yourself. Don't be friends. Setting boundaries, respect and trust. Yeah. Okay. Standard stuff. Okay. Skill number 3, explore personal growth. Taking charge of various aspects of your life can mean learning about yourself and new life skills to make informed decisions that will impact your present and future. Understanding who you are, what your values and beliefs are, will help you to understand what really matters to you and how to reach your goals. I mean, a lot of these kids, I hate to say it, probably have never had to set goals or reach them. You know, get familiar with supports. Take advantage of the different resources available to help you reach your goals. Whether it's to improve your study skills or establish leadership abilities, the Student Success Office will help you to develop lifelong skills. It's also important to, learn about your skill set. It's also important to understand how you perform at your best. Find out your strengths and weaknesses in learning skills or book time with upper year peer success coach. They can help you create a plan. And so, again, these are advertisements. So let me just quickly, okay, so there's an evaluation here. We're not going to do that. And then peer success coaching, it's basically a mentorship thing. Again, so this is what I'm seeing here is we got 2 articles that are, one is supportive and one is completely crapping on the whole idea, even though it's obvious they have no idea what they're talking about. Right? And all it is it's an advertisement. So I'm going to go now to the University of Michigan. Pardon me, Michigan State University. Got to get that right. And again, it's Adulting 101 programming allows youth and young adults to gain skills and knowledge of useful information that will help them be successful in an ever-changing world. Okay. So we're going to, again, explore this. And this looks like it's a more... see, again, they're making it sound like there's classes. And it doesn't, at least with the University of Waterloo, there wasn't classes. You know, maybe Michigan State's a little different here. But we'll see how this works. Literally right on the calendar. It's a class. Okay. Michigan State University's Extension Adulting 101. So it's an extension program. It's not even part of the university. Adulting 101 program helps high school students and beyond demystify the obscure reality of being an adult through engaging educational sessions. Each session is packed full of important life skills and tools necessary to live independently. Topics include money management, community engagement, conflict resolution, career and future education, home skills, and more. Sessions are available through Zoom monthly for free. So this program's for free. You're not even having to pay for any of it. Are you freaking kidding me? I gotta be honest with you, I may take a couple of these courses. Like, this is really good, actually. I gotta be honest with you. Thank you, what is this? It was Rift? Yeah, thank you, Rift, for, like, pissing me off enough to make me want to look at this. Anyways, did you miss a monthly session you wish you could attend? No worries, many of the sessions are recorded. Just click on the video tab above. In addition to sessions, MSU Extensions offer a variety of free self-paced courses available 24/7. Click on the classes above to see the offerings. So let's go up here and look real fast. So we got articles, classes, events, people, publications, and videos. So let's go to the videos real fast. Wow, they got, like, it's all searchable, and so this is with 4-H too. Okay, so that makes more sense. It's 4-H. 4-H would definitely do this kind of stuff. Yeah, medical insurance, getting it together. Wow, they got a lot of interesting courses here. The ins and outs of paying for post-secondary education. Oh, they got a course on making jams and jellies. That's cool. Traveling on a budget. Keeping your money safe. That's good. Cover letters and resume writing. So this one right here, this one is really good. But I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit more nuance to that because you got the ATS systems now. I'm helping someone try and find a job, and I'm learning that what I learned about how to build resumes and stuff is kind of out the window now because a lot of it's AI, but people use default settings as well because they're lazy. Fostering healthy and happy I may take that one. They don't have a lot of videos, but they started back in 2021. So they started in 2021 and then took a massive hiatus and came back in 2024. So I think it was, yeah, we know what happened at that time. But this is good. This is actually pretty good stuff. And this is kind of what I wanted parts of Sentinel Circle to be about, is this kind of stuff here. Yeah, staying safe out there. That's interesting. And then, of course, they have classes. Let's take a look at classes real fast. We'll get back to the page here in a second. We're just doing a little exploring here. Balancing school, work, social life, and health. A 45 to 60 minute interactive and self-guided course where you will explore staying organized, finding a social network, and working as a student and more. Interesting. Avoiding money mishaps, credit craze. Do you have a plan? A lot of money stuff. LinkedIn. They took your first paycheck and taxes. This is, I gotta say, like, I'm kind of applauding Michigan State University on this one. You know, be the change you want to be. Be the change you want to see in the world. So I'm applauding them. And then, of course, here's the staff here. And they have events here. So they got some Zoom classes, Zoom webinars. Looks like the next one is July 9th, Mastering Meal Planning. I may join this one. This one looks very interesting. That's July 9th. August 18th, Adulting 101, Navigating Life, Addressing and Handling Peer Pressure. I mean, the problem is this is like coming from like experts, which, you know, that's fine and all, but like, maybe again, what we would do is like, you know, like as men, I wanted to do something along these lines. Just sit down and have these discussions and, come up with ideas and stuff. So I applaud Michigan State University. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put my handsome face up here now. We're kind of done with that. This is kind of where the final thoughts come into play. We're not going to do comments. We're not going to do ads. This is just me talking here. But again, this is what I'm talking about. Is the whole point of this was to show the disconnect between the media and the adulting 101 courses, the actual courses, right? I applaud Michigan State and University of Waterloo from actively helping, because it's obvious that these kids are not getting it from the places that they should be getting it from. And maybe that's kind of the inherent problem here is the adults have lost that skill. Well, I shouldn't say skill. They've lost the understanding of the contract between adults and children, that adults have to teach what they taught to kids. But if, I've had people say that Gen X kind of didn't really know how to do those things either. And I don't know. One of the comments on one of the articles said that the kids that were like, really young, like 4 and 5, they wanted to help around the house, and she was kind of shooing them away. And then she had to stop herself and realize, like, because initially she was like, well, the kids are just going to get in the way. I can do it faster, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I guess that's kind of what it really boils down to is the adults just want to get it done. So they're telling the kids to go away, and then the kid eventually gives up trying to learn. And that's where the problem is kind of starting out right there. So anyways, the point of the comment was she realized her mistake. She started including the kids, and now they're kind of becoming self-sufficient. The goal of parents is to teach the kids how to be self-sufficient in life, right? And like I said, I realize in my personal life that I am not self-sufficient. I'm having problems. And I'm seeing, especially kids younger than me, like they're buying DoorDash 3 times a day. The fact that DoorDash is now on credit, that should scare people, because again, what it boils down to is if they're ordering DoorDash 3 times, that means they're not cooking at home. It's not by choice. They just legitimately don't know. They probably have some silver, and that's it. They don't have pans. They don't have cooking utensils. They probably don't even know how to operate the stove. And when you have the risk of setting your house on fire, I kind of understand the fear. It builds upon itself. So I can't blame anybody. And again, the whole Rift thing and Dallas Ludlam, he can go kick rocks, honestly. Forget that guy. Because he's like, well, I learned it on my own, and well, that's great that you learned it on your own, but some people either try and fail and don't try again, or they just don't have the skill to learn it on their own. And maybe it's the lack of drive, because, confidence is what creates drive to learn more and to do more. I really do think that the lack of confidence is what's destroying our society. I really do believe that. And without confidence, people just are crippled to the point where they'd be lucky if they got out of bed every day. Like, I've seen stories of people who don't brush their teeth consistently because they're so depressed. They don't clean themselves. They don't clean their environments. And I know that there are people out there that sit there and say, well, I clean there's no excuse for them. Well, I understand there's no excuse. So why aren't they doing it? It's just always this me. I can do this, I can do that. Well, that's great, guy. Like, I appreciate that you can do it, but what about the people that can't? What about the people that don't? Is it because they can't, because there's something blocking them? There's some kind of knowledge gap there, or is it they don't because they just don't care? I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. But either way, I like I said, I applaud Michigan State University for doing it. I applaud Waterloo University or University of Waterloo for taking the step up to do it. You know, even my university, when I went to school, they had some courses on how to take notes and kind of prepare you for how to approach university. And I wish I had taken those courses because, like I said, university kicked my rear. I wasn't prepared for it. You know, I went from being a solid A and B student down to, like, I get to university and it destroyed me because, again, everyone kept telling me, oh, you're smart, you can handle it, blah, 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 blah. You know, it destroyed my ego. So you can't hate the media enough. And I'm going to go so far as to say that you know, both liberal and conservative media. It's not just like one side of it's all media, all of the fourth estate. You can't hate them enough because they're actively lying to you. That's kind of the whole point of this is I took something simple just to show the gap between the two aisles. And then you have the gap is over here. And then what's truth is way over here. And what I'm trying to say is don't take an article's word for it. Do your own research. Understand it. Don't hate something because an article told you to hate it. Don't like something because an article told you to like it. You know, I went into this thinking that, like, I knew it wasn't going to be exactly how, like, the media was portraying it, but I didn't realize how, because I never really looked at those two websites until just now. But it's obvious that the media got it completely wrong. And, you know, this is why Rush called it the drive-by media. They came in, they did their thing, and then they go on to the next disaster zone. You know? So really, just really be cautious about what you see and what you read in the media. Really be cautious. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. My name is Jack, and this is Sentinel Circle. And thank you for being part of the circle. And if you're not part of the circle, make sure you like and subscribe. That always helps. I am a big proponent of that. If you feel that my videos helped you in some way or could help someone else in some way, please share those videos. We have all the social medias. We got Facebook, Twitter. Obviously, you're on the YouTube channel. I have a Rumble where all the videos that I have here are on there. I do my best to accommodate you guys, and it's a lot of work. I will admit that, like, I could do a lot better than what I am, but I'm slowly getting there. You know, things are going. Soon we'll have the website, and it'll all be central there. Right now, Linktree's kind of filling that gap. If you want to find me somewhere, Linktree. Donations help. It really does help. I would appreciate if you would take some time and, again, either donate or share or whatever, okay? All those things, even so much as just clicking that like button, the easiest thing in the world helps. It helps me, it helps the mission, it helps the cause, okay? Again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here, and have a good week, my friends, okay?